When I first started playing Savage Worlds, I stumbled upon a special rule that wasn't even mentioned in the core rulebook. It's an official rule from Pinnacle for Savage Worlds and has become one of my players' favorite features. They can hardly imagine playing without it. So what is this rule? Well, it's not just a rule, it's also an accessory. It's the Savage Worlds Adventure Deck. So what is the Savage Worlds Adventure Deck? The Savage Worlds Adventure Deck is a set of cards, each listing a different event or scenario in the game. These cards are played by the players, giving them greater agency over the game, both mechanically and narratively. Here are a few examples of what the cards can do. Out of the Frying Pan allows players to escape from a dangerous situation, but it might lead them into another tricky scenario. Spill the Beans forces an NPC to reveal a vital clue or piece of information. Turncoat, an enemy NPC switches sides and helps the players for a short period. Second Wind allows a player to recover from being shaken and wounded, giving them a second chance at a tough fight. Rules as written, each player receives one card per rank that they have reached at the beginning of each game session. For example, a veteran ranked player receives one card for novice, one for seasoned, and one for veteran. However, except in a few unique circumstances, players can only play one card per session, no matter how many they have drawn. These cards can help players out of a tough spot, ensure they can take down the big bad, or put themselves in a worse condition as a trade-off for more cards. So why does no one talk about this deck? Well, there are a couple of reasons why the Savage Worlds Adventure Deck isn't widely discussed. First and foremost is the lack of awareness. The Adventure Deck is not mentioned in the core rules, so many players and GMs simply do not know it exists. The second reason, though, is the perceived power imbalance of these cards. Some players and GMs think that the cards are too powerful or disruptive if used as written. This can lead to a feeling that the deck undermines the balance and challenges of the game. If you're considering using the Adventure Deck but are concerned about the power imbalance, there are several ways to use and adjust the Adventure Deck to fit your game better. Primarily, you need to consider your table and the kind of game you are playing. If you're running a pulpy game, which Savage Worlds lends itself to, I highly recommend using these cards. However, if you're a GM concerned about balanced encounters and not giving players too much power, you might want to pass on the deck. It could make the game more difficult to narrate. When I first started using the Adventure Deck, I didn't make any changes to it, and everything worked out fine with my initial group of players. However, I realized I needed to modify the deck when we transitioned to playing East Texas University, or ETU. Despite the adjustments, I wasn't enjoying it as much. Recently, I tried a different approach with my Pathfinder for Savage Worlds group. Each player received a card at the beginning of the session, but they kept it from session to session and only replaced it once they used it. Interestingly, our latest mini-campaign didn't use the Adventure Deck at all. This wasn't intentional, but afterward, it felt like a relief, at least to me. The additional mechanics didn't bog us down, and it was nice not to worry about the cards disrupting meaningful encounters. We weren't going through our cards and disrupting the game, trying to find a way to use them to help us out of certain situations or help us bypass the roll of the dice. Ultimately, I think the Savage Worlds Adventure Deck is a fantastic tool that can add fun and unpredictability to your game. Whether you use it as is, customize it to better fit your campaign, or decide to skip it altogether, it's important to find what works best for your group. My experience has shown that sometimes not using the deck can be as enjoyable and less stressful. Give it a try in your next session and see how it changes the game, but don't be afraid to adjust or even set it aside if it doesn't fit your style. If you have used the Adventure Deck, tell me below if your group uses it rules as written, or if you do your own thing with it. Leave suggestions for other players who would like to use this tool. And if you're the kind of game master who's worried about making the game too easy for your players, check out this video right here.